Welcome back everyone to the channel. I'm Vanilla Soup, and today joining me again is Joseph Ferris from Game Explain. Say hello, Joseph.
Hello, Joseph.
I hate when you do that.
I'll do it every time you tell me to say hello, Joseph.
I guess it's a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. Am I right?
Yep.
So today, Joseph and I want to talk about some recent developments that have been happening in the gaming world. You know them, I know them. Skyward Sword HD is officially coming out, and there's a bit of controversy. Would you agree with that sentence, Joseph?
I would agree with that sentence. It's just a lot of nonsense, in my opinion. I don't know, not total nonsense, but I'm kind of just a little annoyed that people are honestly surprised that they priced Skyward Sword how they did.
Okay, yeah, so let's get into it. Like, what did they price it at, and how do you feel about it? Like, cut and dry. Give me the opinions.
Okay.
Or the facts. I mean, let's be honest.
The fact is that Skyward Sword HD is going to be $60 when it comes out in July. 60 full priced dollars right there. And for one, you should have seen this coming. Nintendo always prices their games at 60. There might have been a few exceptions here. I don't remember. Pikmin 3 Deluxe was 60. Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze was 60. Like, I'm specifically referring to these ports. Occasionally they'll get a little generous and they'll only make us pay 60 for both Bayonetta 1 and Bayonetta 2. But other than that, this game was going to be 60 regardless.
Right. Yeah. I agree with you. It's kind of weird to me that people were shocked by this. It's kind of just status quo, and I mean, especially with the examples you provided, but even more examples being like the Wii U games, even the HD remasters, re-releases, however you want to put it, of the other Zelda games. I mean, come on, like, did we not see this coming? I mean, cue the Persona 5 music, am I right?
but then there's the case of the fact that Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD also came out full priced, even though they came out 10 years after the original game's releases.
Right.
And every time I've always asked this on Twitter a lot because I just can't get over it. I'm just thinking, where was the outrage when these games prices were announced? Where was it? And my favorite answer I always get is, well, those were $50, Joey, not 60. I'm like, oh, big difference, huge difference. My apologies. Only a $10 difference. Wow. Thank you.
No,
but I know Twilight Princess HD came with the amiibo. If you got the special edition, which was 60. Wind Waker, I don't think came with really anything.
I can't recall at the moment. Yeah.
No, but yeah, but now it's like if you buy the game digitally. You can fact check me on this here. If you buy the game digitally on the eShop, because you can't buy it new anywhere else now, with Twilight Princess HD, is $60. It's a $60 game on the eShop right now. I think maybe it's 50. I don't remember. Editor, slap it on there. Slap the price on there.
You said your opinion, or you said what's happening. Are you willing to pay $60 for Skyward Sword?
100%. That game is one of my favorite Zeldas ever. Ooh. And there's so much value in there for $60. You get a huge single player story, and there's just so much to do in there. You could take as long as you want. It's not a Breath of the Wild, that's for sure. Right. Like, if you haven't played this game before and you're coming off of Breath of the Wild, you will get a bit of like, oh, what? Like, why is everyone stopping me every 5 minutes?
Why are there actual dungeons?
Why are there real dungeons? Why is there a good story this time? Stuff like that. But it's amazing, and I love this game so much. I was so excited when they announced it for the Switch, and
I'm right there with you.
Of course, you love Skyward Sword as much as I do, maybe more. Is it still your favorite Zelda game?
It definitely is okay. Wind Waker and Skyward Sword go back almost every day. You ask me, and you do ask me every day.
Every day.
But yeah, it's between Wind Waker and Skyward Sword for sure. Love me my pirates, but also loved my Skyloft. Love the soundtrack. Love the story that's being told in Skyward Sword. It's just all a great game. And I know that a big reason, and you could correct me if I'm wrong here, Joseph, but I heavily believe that there would not be as much outrage if Skyward Sword was more well received publicly. You know what I'm saying? Like, if Skyward Sword was more beloved by everyone because it's a controversial, if you want to call it that. It's a controversial Zelda game where very divisive. That's the word I'm looking for. Not controversial, but divisive on whether it's good or a good or bad Zelda game. And
absolutely,
I happen to think it's the best Zelda game. Some people think it's the worst, and that's totally fine. That's not the conversation we're having, but I do think that inevitably will get into the mix when you're discussing, is this game worth $60? Because some people didn't even think that when it launched, like, oh, this game is garbage, but content alone, it's definitely worth $60. I'm just going to put that out there.
And here's the thing,
yeah,
they revamped the controls.
Yes,
that's not cheap. That is the most difficult part of that's probably the most difficult part of developing this game, is making those motion controls, which is a lot of the reason why people hated Skyward Sword, was the motion controls.
Right.
And now you don't have to play with the motion controls anymore, and it'll whether the little workaround they had to do to make them work on there, like with the right control stick, whether that's going to work or not, it remains to be seen yet. But it's also just like, if it does work, like, then you have no reason to complain. Like,
right.
Honestly, the reason you hated the game is gone now. It's optional, rather, I should say. It's not, you can just play the game with a controller and you're still gonna crap on it. So it's annoying.
Yeah, and to kind of go on to another note here now, I know a lot of you are like, but Kyle, you're a Halo channel. Why are you talking about Zelda? Well, I'll tell you this. I can talk about my green boys whenever I want to, okay?
Yes.
But there's a big angle I want to go at this. I want to see this question, Joey. Now, Master Chief Collection, fantastic bundle. You get Halo 1 through 4 and Halo Reach. You get Halo 3 ODST, all the stories and all the multiplayer, and continual updates for free, no extra charge at all, for a $40 price tag. And a lot of times you're going to find it on sale too, on both Steam, Xbox, whatever platform you're playing it on at the moment. Do you think that is kind of that's kind of like a showcase of like, hey, this is how you price these older games? Or do you think it's a different situation? And if so, why?
That's a lot of... I was wondering this too, because you also have the case of the Mass Effect trilogy,
right,
also coming out for $40 as well, which is really cool. But I saw a really good tweet about it from Emily Rogers, and I'm trying to find it right now, because she talks about how these decisions are not just made like just out of the blue. There's a lot of research and development that goes into pricing games, and it just turns out that Nintendo just thought that this game is going to sell really well at $60, and Microsoft thought their game was going to sell well at $40, and in the end, both were correct, because now Skyward Sword is the top-selling top-selling game on Amazon right now.
Yeah, it has like a crazy amount of pre-orders going for it. So the value is one thing, but like the audience reception, while online it may seem like, oh, everyone hates Skyward Sword, everyone doesn't want to buy it, no one wants to buy it at that price, the actual dollar amount being handed over is not in correlation with that of what we hear online.
Yeah, seriously. And I wanted to bring up Mass Effect because I also was thinking, and I don't think this applies to Halo as much, but when it comes to Mass Effect, that is a franchise whose last entry was pretty poorly received. I guarantee you, if Andromeda was a raving huge success, they could have sold the Mass Effect trilogy for way more. But right now, the Mass Effect franchise, and pretty much every franchise by BioWare right now, is kind of just on thin ice.
Yeah.
There's probably a reason why they decided to price it at $40. And maybe another reason why Microsoft decided to price Master Chief Collection at $40 was because of the Xbox One sales not being as much as they wanted it to.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up, because Halo Master Chief Collection was definitely a release that also wasn't that well received. I mean, if we're being honest with it, it launched with Halo 1, 2, 3, and 4. ODST wasn't there. Halo Reach wasn't there, if I remember. Well, I know Halo Reach wasn't there.
It wasn't.
I'm pretty sure Halo ODST wasn't there, but it's been a long time now. Yeah, okay, it was. That's right. I just wanted to make sure. So basically 4 games, right? And if you remember the launch of that game, it had a really problematic launch. Like, The online co-op would just refuse to work. Online multiplayer, the matchmaking was abysmal. It was a terrible experience, and to try and get a game was very difficult. Now, when it worked, of course, it was Halo. It worked great when it did work, but that was very hard to do.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to say that, like, a big reason why Halo 3 ODST, why Halo Reach, why these games got their 4K updates and new content. Heck, we just got a great look at the flighting that's going on right now for Halo 3's new update, with all these new skins and armors and animated visor, like all these cool things that are coming to Halo Master Chief Collection. And I think those things are sort of still being done in a way to help earn good faith back, if that makes sense. Like,
yes,
it's like the release was not great. I don't think if there's anyone out there that's going to defend the release of Master Chief Collection. And then we had Halo 5, which was another critically, like, divisive game. So yeah, like, the Halo community has, like, had a rough go at it. And so to keep it at $40 while increasing the content, while updating it regularly, and then even giving it on sale, I love how you said earlier, like, it like there's a lot of marketing strategy that goes into this. Like, they probably looked at that and were like, okay, let's keep it the same. In fact, let's add a sale so we can get the player count up, and then we can talk from there. Because absolutely, like, if you were to ask me what I'm willing to pay for Master Chief Collection, oh dude, $100. I would gladly, like, if at launch it had all of that stuff, right? Like, it had all the games. I'm not saying like it would ever be $100, but I would comfortably say, like, I would pay that, right? Yeah. I would comfortably pay for Skyward Sword HD for $60. I love that game. I love what they're doing to make it portable. And heck, we got a small glimpse into it. We don't even know if they're going to add, like, maybe like a couple extra quality of life features, like how the maps and bottles were added to Wind Waker, excuse me. Like, there's a couple extra features added to make it a little better. And then the sailing was improved. We don't know all the details for Skyward Sword. Who knows? There might be still some things that they have yet to reveal. So I guess on that front, just, like, hold your horses. Am I right?
Yeah. And I want to address, because I know the comments are going to bring this up. Like, I know all the counter arguments here. Here we go. So
it's almost like we've dealt with this already.
Yeah. So there's a meme going around where they compare Skyward Sword when it came with the Wii Remote Plus bundle and the soundtrack disc, and it was $60 or $70. I don't remember how much it was. It was a really good deal.
Yeah, I don't think it was 60, because I remember I don't remember the exact price, but I remember specifically that I wanted to buy it because I thought it was 60, but I didn't have enough money, so my parents helped me out a little bit to get the controller version.
Yeah, so that was awesome of your parents. Thanks, Mom. But but then they compared it to Skyward Sword HD plus the Joy-Cons for $100 and something. And I'm sitting here thinking, you don't need the Joy-Cons to play the game.
Yeah.
And another thing that's interesting is that even though Skyward Sword had a very generous bundle, an extremely generous bundle, that Nintendo definitely sold this game at a loss by including a Wii Remote Plus in there, because it was required to play the game. It still didn't sell that well for a Zelda game. I think it sold around 3 million units, 3.5 million units total, which isn't bad. But, you know, everyone talks about how that game came out the same month as Skyrim, and Skyrim just destroyed that month compared to Zelda. And another thing to consider when talking about Skyward Sword's price is that Zelda is one of the most iconic and successful video game franchises of all time. And
are you saying it's more iconic than Halo? Is that what we're saying here?
Yes.
Oh my gosh! Get off my channel. Just kidding.
Okay, bye. But it's one of the most successful video game franchises of all time.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
People are.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm just joking.
And I know you're kidding. But it's coming off of the huge success of Breath of the Wild, which people are still buying to this day, brand spanking new. So obviously they're going to price it at 60. They're going to get a maximum profit off of it if they don't. So in the end, if you don't want to buy it at 60, don't buy it. But
yeah, I
mean,
mean,
you gotta understand, like, these decisions aren't just made solely based off of greed.
Yeah,
it's based off of business and marketing decisions. It's not just
And by no means are we trying to, like, quote unquote lick the boot of Nintendo. If you've been around at all, you know that Joey and I both have criticized Nintendo to no end sometimes. I stopped making Nintendo content solely because of my grievances with Nintendo. I used to make Nintendo videos all the time, but now I'm Halo, so I can complain about Halo prices. But yeah, like, this is a great conversation to have because maybe you're on the other side of the fence, or maybe you're on our side of the fence, and we can talk about this in a reasonable sort of fashion. I don't like the discourse and the heatedness that I've seen out there. So I like these kind of videos that we can kind of sit down and talk about this logically and kind of, express our thoughts. And I'm definitely curious to hear your thoughts on the matter. Leave them in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear it. Even if you disagree with me, please explain why. I love having those conversations, and I'm sure Joey will be there too, so we can have a great interaction there. But before we wrap up, Joey, is there anything you'd like to say before we close up?
Play Skyward Sword, especially if you haven't played it before, because especially if you haven't played it before, because if you've heard all the grievances people have with this game, you've also heard people say they love this game.
Yeah.
You won't know what side of the fence you're on until you play it.
Right.
Like, my favorite parts of Skyward Sword are the dungeons, are the music, and the story. The story made me cry. It is it's definitively the best Zelda story, and I'm going to say that right here.
And this very well may be the definitive experience for Skyward Sword too, because you won't have to use those Wii remotes, so you can just play like a video game, and I think that's pretty cool. Joey, before we leave, tell them at home where we can find you.
You can find me at the YouTube channel Game Explained. You might have heard of it, might have not, but yeah, go check it out. We're gonna come out with more Skyward Sword content until that game comes out in July, among other Nintendo contents. Lots of Nintendo contents over at Game Explained, and maybe some Halo stuff if they, show us more Halo before.
I can't wait for that. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us, and until next time, I'll see you online. Vanilla Soup out.